Is the Fuji X-M5 worth it? After 2 months, here are my 2 cents. Alright, so from the moment that this camera was announced, I was obsessed and I knew I had to have it, but I didn't really have a way to get the camera because notoriously, like every other Fuji camera out there, there is a really long waitlist. Now, at first, my friends over at Fujifilm Canada sent over a Fuji X-M5 for me to try out for 2 weeks and I fell in love. So much so that I had my friends over at Moment Camera put me on the list for a Fuji X-M5 and I got it a month later. And I bought it for basically moments like this. Right now we are in Lisbon, Portugal. We arrived yesterday and this, the Fuji X-M5, is exactly why I bought this, for travel. So who is this camera for? Well, if you're someone like me, when you saw that this camera came out with the specs and the size and the price tag, you thought, wow, is it really that good? Well, today we're going to find out in my real world honest review. Now, quick disclaimer, like all reviews on this channel, this is not going to be very spec heavy. This is a very hands-on, experience-based review. Alright, so first up, the design and build quality. Now, right off the bat, one of the key selling features of this camera is its compact size. It is so small. Like, I actually can't even describe how small it is until you have it in your hands. It is so portable, much smaller than a Fuji X106 or definitely any other Fuji camera similar to this one, and yet it still has all the standard things that you would expect in a larger camera body, like a full flip-out screen, a mic jack, a headphone jack, USB-C charging, and more. And speaking of design, of course, the Fuji X-M5 is an interchangeable lens camera, meaning that you can change this lens out for any other lens that is an X-mount lens for Fuji, which means the possibilities with this camera are basically endless. And that's actually probably one of the key reasons why I bought this camera over a camera like the Fuji X106. Now, in terms of build quality, yes, it does technically feel a bit more entry-level compared to the X106 or even the XS20, but honestly, you barely notice it because these cameras are built so well. It's like, what are you really putting this camera through to warrant such a heavy-duty, fully metal body construction? I honestly have no issues with the build quality of the X-M5. Now, does the X106 feel more sturdy and feel more quality in the hands? Well, probably, but honestly, it's not that big of a difference. And one last thing on the design of this camera, I do really enjoy the amount of dials and buttons they decided to put on a camera body of this size. I think if there was even one less dial, it would not have been as functional, and if there was any more dials, it might have been too tight and too much to work with on such a compact body size. You can customize almost every single button, and once you get used to your button layout on the camera, everything becomes second nature, including my favorite button, which is the dial right in front of the shutter button here. You can press that button in multiple times to access different settings like shutter speed, f-stop, ISO, and more. Now, one thing I always do mention on this channel is that I tend to like larger camera bodies. I love my film camera, the Canon EOS 1N, because it's so massive, it's so thick and heavy, it really feels good in the hands. This whole section sounds crazy. So for me, normally a small camera body would feel too small, but this one is exactly what I want it for, a travel, easy, run and gun situation. Now, if I was doing more serious, long-term, commercial, heavy-duty shoots, I would definitely want a larger camera body that feels better in the hands after hours and hours of use. But this, I have around the strap, I'm picking it up every once in a while to take some pictures while traveling, and it's good to go. Now, would I actually print or deliver these images from the X-M5 for commercial or professional work? Well, it depends. If you really know what you're doing with these Fuji cameras and you use good glass paired with the camera, you can make some incredible results. And then the only thing that you're bound to really, if you wanted to, let's say, for example, print a large format print from this camera, is the megapixel count. But odds are, if you're watching this review and thinking about buying this camera, then that's probably not what you're going to be doing with this camera anyways, so that's really a non-issue. Alright, next up, arguably the most important section, image quality and performance. Like every modern Fuji camera, I am always blown away by the images that these cameras produce, especially with this X-M5. And if you've watched any of my other reviews of other current Fuji cameras, you know that I honestly have no complaints here. With the way that I'm using these Fuji cameras, I'm almost always on JPEG only, so I haven't actually played around with the raw photo capabilities too much on the X-M5, but when it comes to JPEGs and obviously the recipes that we'll get to in a second, this camera is fantastic. Now, I will say everything I've shot with this camera is with the kit lens, the 15 to 45 millimeter kit lens, which I've always said is a fantastic lens for the money. It's basically a $99 lens, which is absolutely insane, and the performance you get out of it is really solid. Is it as good as a more flagship XF lens? Definitely not. It's obviously not as good, but you get what you pay for. Again, I wanted to keep this whole setup very lightweight, very easygoing, and so for me, the plastic kit lens is obviously a great choice right now. I do find with the crop sensors in these Fuji cameras, I tend to expose a half stop to a full stop down because I do like how the Fuji cameras handle the shadows more than I like how they handle the highlights. I find the highlights can be very easily blown out, which just give the image a bit more of an amateur look, whereas if I expose down, it might be a bit contrasty, a bit moody, but at least I can pull the shadows up and still retain most, if not all, the detail in the highlights. And I just mentioned it, but next up, we're going to talk film simulations and recipes. Now, the X-M5 is jam-packed with all the newest Fuji sims that you would expect in a Fuji camera. If you've owned a Fuji camera before, then you definitely know all about building your own custom recipes with these film simulations, and that is genuinely the best part of a camera like the X-M5. But specifically, what I love most about building film recipes on the X-M5 is the fact that it has 4 custom dial modes on the actual top dial itself, which means I have 4 custom recipes baked into the camera at all times. And then on top of that, they even put a full dedicated film simulation dial on the top left of the camera, which allows you to easily access and have a good, strong visual guide to switch between film sims on a whim. Now, I'm going to make a whole separate video on the film recipes that I've built into my Fuji X-M5 that I use for every day and why I use them and where I use them, so stay tuned for that video as well. Alright, next we're going to talk about the autofocus. I am genuinely pleased. Now, I come from Sony land where the autofocus system is literally perfect and has been for several years now, and I have zero complaints at all times with the Sony autofocus. I'm using it right now to film this video and it has not missed once. The Fujis for a long time did lack in both autofocus accuracy and speed, but I think with these new cameras like the X-M5, the X106, the XS20 Mark II, and all these other new Fuji cameras, they've really upped their game. The X-M5 almost never misses focus. In fact, sometimes the facial recognition and the facial autofocus is so good that it focuses on faces when I actually don't want them to, and that can be kind of annoying at times, but if I just quickly switch that off, if I know I'm shooting more dynamic scenes and not just portraits, then it's really not a big deal at all. The focus is dialed in. And this camera also has a lot of built-in content creator friendly features like product focus, where it will automatically rack focus to a product that you're showing to the camera instead of focusing on your face while the product is still out of focus, meaning that it will detect when you're putting a product towards the camera so that it knows to put attention and put focus there instead of on your face. Alright, next up we're going to briefly talk about video. Now, I haven't shot too much video with this camera because it is, for me, mainly a photo camera, but I did shoot this unboxing recently on the Fuji X-M5 in F-Log, and I was very pleased. Now, the X-M5 can do 6.2K video recording, but I don't really need that. I shot this video at 4K at 100 megabits per second bitrate, and I was really happy with the results. Obviously, it was a very controlled environment, indoor with studio lighting, but overall, very pleased. There's probably a ton of other reviews out there that focus more on the video aspects of the X-M5, so definitely go search for those if you're in the market for the X-M5 for video. But genuinely, I am very surprised and very happy with the video performance of this camera. And then last but not least is my only real con or downside of the X-M5 or any smaller camera in the Fuji lineup, and that is battery life. Now again, a camera that you have in your lineup that is your workhorse camera, like for me, the Sony a7 IV, of course, I'm going to have 8-10 batteries always lined up, always charged, ready to go, and they last a long time in and of themselves. But for a easy run and gun, not everyday camera like the X-M5, I only own 1 battery, and that battery isn't exactly the best. Now, does it last me a full day of walking around Lisbon, for example? Yes, it will, because I'm primarily doing photo only on this camera, and I am turning it off and back on and off and back on whenever I feel like I want to use it. But if you're using this camera for more intensive video or for a longer period of time at one time, then the battery might be an issue. Okay, so wrapping all that up, who is this camera for? Well, I think the Fuji X-M5 is perfect if you're someone looking for a travel camera, if you're a content creator looking for a dedicated camera to make all your easy run and gun or at home content in a very compact form factor, or if you want a inexpensive entry-level gateway into the world of Fuji cameras that also has the capabilities like interchangeable lenses, very high quality video, and so much more. Which, saying it out loud, makes this camera sound really, really good, and I honestly believe it is the best bang for your buck camera in the Fuji lineup, until you obviously get into the higher end cameras like the X-H2, X-H2S, GFX lineup, all of those. I think the X-M5 is perfect for most people. Yes, it might not look as impressive or as professional, but once you see the images that this thing can produce, it really does hit above its weight class. But that being said, who should avoid this camera is somebody looking for a dedicated workhorse camera that they can use full-time as a professional photographer or videographer. I do still think this camera comes with its limitations in terms of overall performance in the strictly professional realm. It's not built for that. It's mainly meant to be a fun, everyday, but still very high quality and very performance heavy camera for the price. Now, odds are if you're watching this review and you're in the market for other cameras similar to this one, like the XS20 Mark II or the X106 or even the X105, I would recommend looking at the XM5 as a very, very viable and very logical option. In fact, I have a lot of friends that shoot with the Fuji X-T5, which is kind of like the flagship Fuji camera at the moment, and I have to say, for the price difference, I would rather have the X-M5 and invest in more glass. Invest in better lenses for the X-M5, have a smaller form factor, and still have most of the capabilities, yes, a lower megapixel count, than a camera like the X-T5 for a fraction of the price. And those are my 2 cents after 2 months with the Fuji X-M5. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below for more photo content. And leave a comment down below what you think about the X-M5, or if you're in the market for other Fuji cameras, I would love to hear your thoughts. But until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.